Backed by overwhelming demand, Lazav the Multifarious versus Isperia Supreme Judge. We can keep this. We've got an opt for turn 1 and then we'll get the Mesmeric Orb out as soon as possible. Actually, maybe we just Thought Scour. Yeah, I think we can just Thought Scour. And yeah, we'll see what we draw into anyway. Maybe that will dictate what we go for here. Ancient Tomb can just Mesmeric Orb on turn 1. Do we care about that? I think I will actually go for Mesmeric Orb on turn 1, because if our opponent decides to do something like a Mystical Tutor, then that will actually put the thing that they tutor for with the tutor in the bin, but they do not go for that. So we played around that for no reason, but at least now they have to try and work out what they're going to end up milling with the Mesmeric Orb. See if they stack things correctly with Halimar Depths. And while our opponent's deciding on that, we can have a look at the commander. 6 mana in Azorius for a 6/4 flyer, and when it attacks you or a planeswalker you control, you may draw a card. Oh, when we attack them, or a planeswalker they control, they draw a card. Yeah, of course, that makes much more sense. And as for our deck, as Mesmeric Orb might suggest, we want to load up our graveyard and get into as much... I think we'll just play the island there. Yeah, get into as many creatures into our graveyard as possible, because Lazav the Multifarious can become copies of creatures in graveyards, and then we can get lots of different types of effects on there. There's lots of different combos in the deck. And we get a Talisman of Progress off of our commander, off of our opponent's commander. That is some ramp for them, which apparently they didn't need to draw into. They have a 3rd land which will fix their white mana, and they might just be holding up counter magic here. So we'll go for... I think we'll just go for a Thought Scour and try and mill ourselves for 2. And we'll have a look at what we get off the Thought Scour. We get a Watery Grave and an island and a Thought Scour. So that is not particularly good. Would have been nice to draw into those, but it doesn't matter. We can just hold up Fact or Fiction now. Yeah, we'll go for an Underground Sea off of the Flooded Strand, and if our opponent decides to do anything really obnoxious, we've got Force of Will and a special edition Artless Force of Will for the spell that they cast, and we can get rid of Opt to do that. Failing that, there's nothing to stop us just casting Opt, of course. Not going to rush out our commander into counter magic because there's nothing for it to target anyway. We need to load up our graveyard first. So I think we can just go for... We'll see if they want to counter a Fact or Fiction. Go for the Underground Sea. And then 1, 2, and 2 blue. And they can counter that if they want to. It'll leave our turn free for whatever we want. Okay, we get a 2/2 out of that, so we can swing in with that next turn. And it's one more thing to untap with the Mesmeric Orb. We do get Phage the Untouchable, so if we get into something like a Lab Maniac in our hand, which we can take them by surprise with, if we get into a Basalt Monolith, we can go infinite with the Mesmeric Orb and draw out our library with the Lab Maniac, so that is a line worth remembering. Get down our land for the turn. And how far are we off Phage? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. There's nothing else that we can target though. Why don't we get this graveyard up here? The only thing we can target is Phage, so I think we can hold off a turn on that, to be honest. But it might get counter magic out of... In fact, I think we'll just go for Lazav here, because it might get counter magic out of our opponent's hand. Okay, plus we can Surveil, so that might be of some use to us. Toxic Deluge we will have on top, please. So we draw into a Toxic Deluge next turn. And we can hold up Opt, and we'll just scry that Toxic Deluge back on top of our library, draw it, and then we can draw into something new. Or we'll actually mill the Toxic Deluge, so yeah, that's actually useful to us, opting the Toxic Deluge on top. Put a target on top of its owner's library. Okay, well that is... yeah, they're using the Azorius charm to get rid of the bird token that they gave us, so that's fine with me. Our opponent mills the Archaeomancer, which is great, and Muldrifter is really good to get rid of. Yeah, I don't care too much about Jace's Erasure, but Muldrifter and Archaeomancer are good mills. And Lazav the Multifarious, I don't know if I've been over it yet. When it comes in, you surveil 1, and you can pay X and have it become a copy of a target creature in your graveyard, and it keeps this ability. So what we can do is Sphere of Safety. Sphere of Safety I don't like. Don't like that one bit. I think we can just... yeah, we'll have to mill the Toxic Deluge that's on top of our library, because we're not going to be able to opt. I don't want to get rid of Lab Maniac just in case we draw into Basalt Monolith. So we'll get rid of that Sphere of Safety. That's not something that I want to play around. And then before the end of our turn, we'll tap down the... we'll just tap down the Underground Sea. I don't want to take damage from the Ancient Tomb. And we'll get one more mill off of our lands there. So that's the Toxic Deluge we put on top. Torrential Gear Hulk is only of use to us in our hand, but Tunnel Vision is very good. We could try and go for Basalt Monolith and try and get a Lab Maniac win. We actually have the mana to do that as well next turn, so I think we'll go for that. The correct play might be to get down the some kind of evasive creature and then go for a Phage win. But I like to try and get as many different types of wins out as possible, so just know that this isn't super tight competitive Magic that you're seeing here. This is me trying to show off the deck and see the different types of things that we can do. And our opponent might have a counter spell of their own. Either that or it's taking a long time to load up for some reason. Our opponent's clock is ticking down. And what Tunnel Vision does is we can choose a card in our library, or any card. Okay, and our opponent just decides to scoop it up. Yeah, I'm not sure why. They could have at least seen what we were going for and then worked out if it was an infinite combo or something from there. They obviously didn't know that we had Lab Maniac in hand and that we were going for Basalt Monolith for the infinite combo next turn. So, to anyone out there playing these types of games, it's worth not conceding before you've seen what your opponent's actually going to do. There's nothing to stop you next turn, 1, seeing what card you draw and if you get an answer, and 2, seeing if your opponent's actually going to beat you next turn or within the next 2 turns, because it might be that they don't. As it happens, I think we could have got the win off there had they not have drawn into counter magic, which they may well have done. Yeah, so early concession from our opponent, but it's par for the course on Magic Online apparently. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. I hope you're enjoying this bonus weekend Guilds of Ravnica content. This commander has been incredibly popular, by far the most on the channel, most popular on the channel. So I thought I'd throw out some bonus content for you there. More tomorrow, maybe more today, depends on how many recordings I get done. Thank you for watching.